let's take a look at how we would add a chat system to our multiplayer server. Alright, so you might be asking yourself why we're doing this when just like 2 weeks ago we were talking about an RTS and everybody kind of wanting to go that route as far as learning, right? Learning how to make an RTS and the different mechanics of an RTS. Well, I'm showing you this because some of you might want to do a multiplayer type deal, and I'm not going to be incorporating any of that into the RTS. So with this will give you basic networking, so you can connect peer-to-peer with your friend, or with as many friends as you want. As you see here, I've got 4 different connections going. And we can add in a color-coded chat system, like you see here. This way, people are able to type in the chat. That way, if they don't have a microphone, or maybe they don't want to use one because it's too late, because time zones suck, whatever it is, they'd still have a way to communicate with everyone else. Alright, so there you go. That's how you can set, or jump to the end there. But yeah, so I want to go ahead and set that up and show you how to do that. That way, if you want to do that, you can implement that stuff into your own game, your own RTS, when we do get around to doing that. And I won't have to show you how to do that. If you want to take that further and go up a whole nother level, right? Having servers hosted somewhere else, maybe having lobbies that people are able to just click on and join, make them password protected, etc. That's a whole far more advanced than what I've shown you. I do want to keep things at least relatively simple, so let's go ahead and jump in to what we've got. Well, what I'm using here is I'm just using a button with the word send. I have a line edit, and I just gave it a placeholder message of just type a message ... And then I have a rich text label, and this is what's displaying the text. Now, why are we using this? Well, rich text label allows us to use BB code. Well, what's BB code mean? Well, BB code allows you to, it's going to allow you to, say, put images in there as an example. So if you wanted to have some kind of link system set up, so maybe if someone says the hammer of Asgard, right? If they type that in, maybe that gets replaced with a picture or the icon of that weapon, if you wanted to do that. And then maybe that weapon links out, if a user clicks on it, that'll link out to your wiki, to that object within your game. If you want to do something like that, you could do that with BB code. If you want to just have something simple, like we were showing there in the beginning, where the player's name is one color and then the message is white, and then maybe you have a background behind the message to make it easier to see, I'm just using black. You could use a transparent color if you wanted, just to darken it up a little bit, or you can go with nothing if you don't want to have any option back there for the background color. But BB code gives us all of these options. And not to mention, if the user wanted to, they could type in BB code in their message if they really wanted to. So if they want to emphasize something with italics or bold, technically they could. But with that, let's go ahead, jump in. Those are the only UI elements I'm using for this. And my script by default, I've added 2 exported variables: my chat display, my text input. That's just getting my line edit and my rich text label. Now let's go ahead and jump into how to make this work with the code. Alright, so here in the code, I've gone ahead and I've just created an array of strings for all, well, not all, but some of the built-in colors that come with Godot. And if you wanted to, you could allow the user to pick their color when they join. It's easy enough. You just got to go ahead and put a color picker node in there, and then grab the color from that when the user joins. But for me, I'm just having a bunch of default colors in here, and they should be lowercase, but they're capital, so I'm just going to lowercase them later. I've got a variable here called myColor. That is a string. And inside my ready function, I'm just going to call randomize. That way, everything is completely random when we do this, so nothing is based off of times or everything with the same seed. It's all going to be as random as I can make it right now. And then our myColor variable is just going to be set to our built-in colors, and it's going to be told to pick a random one. And because we're using default color codes here, like red, green, blue, white, etc. When it comes to BB code, this needs to be lowercase, so I'm just calling to lower. So now my color is going to be a it's going to be a random color based off of the supported colors that we're using when it comes to color coding the user name, or in this case, we're using the user ID. Alright, so my send button has a pressed signal connected to it. And what we're going to need to do this, if we think about it, when we send a message, we need the ID of the user. Or if you're going with usernames in yours, then you can go with the username. We're going to need the message that's being sent. We need to clear out the message box. That way it looks like it's actually been sent. And then we can actually send the message to our server and out to everyone else that's connected. Alright, so the first thing we need, we're going to need that ID. Now, we didn't store it anywhere. And we don't know who's actually sending this. So we can't just be like, hey, grab ourself, because we're not on the sprite, right? And grab our name and then convert that to an integer. It's not going to work that way. But what we can do is we can get our ID. Of course, it's going to be an int. And we can say, hey, peer and get unique ID. And that's going to get our client ID that's connected to our server. I just really keep bumping that. I'm sorry if you keep hearing that. That is really getting in the way there, oddly enough. Alright, so we have an ID. We're going to need our message. So for our message, that's obviously going to be a string. And that's just going to be our text input dot text, right? So the text out of our line edit. And then now that we have a hold of that message, we can go ahead and clear that out. So text input dot clear. There we go. So now if we were to go ahead and come on in here, and it doesn't matter if we're connected or not right now, but we can come in, we can type a message, we hit send, and it looks like everything is sent, just nothing being displayed. And if we were to print out message, we should see that in the output. But alright, so that's working, that's looking as we need. Now to actually send a message, let's create a function for that. So we're going to call this send message. We're going to take a few arguments. We're going to take an ID as an int. We're going to take a message MSG, which will be a string, and we're going to take a color, which in this case is going to be a string, since that's what we're going to be passing in, and of course void, because we're not returning anything with this. Alright, so how are we going to do this with BB code? Well, all we have to do is use a function called append text when we're using BB code. So we can just get our chat display and do dot append text, and this will allow us to put BB code in there. Now if you just do dot text or add text, then your BB code is going to be printed out exactly as it is, and we're not actually going to use BB code. So we actually have to remember to use append text whenever we want to use BB code. And to use BB code, for example, all we do here, we have our square brackets. We type in color equals, and then the color we want. So we could type in red in all lowercase, for example, and all of our text would be red. Alternatively, we could use the hex color, so we can say FF0000, and this will also give us a red. So we can go about this multiple ways here in order to get this color. Since I'm using my default my color variable at the top, I'm just going to say %s as a placeholder. And to close off this tag, right, we would have our square brackets and we would have this /color. And now anything in between these tags is going to be this color, which in the example was red. But once we actually get this going, it'll be a random color. So what do we want to put in there? Well, we want to have the ID in there. So I'm going to use %s for another placeholder for my variable. I'll put a colon because we want to separate the ID or username from the message. Put a space. And I can just do %s again for the message because these are all variables that we're passing in to this. All right, now, if that's all we wanted to do, that's fine. I'm going to add a background color behind everything. So I'm just going to add another tag here at the beginning called BG color equals, and I'm just going to set mine to black by default. And considering I'm using the same background color for everything, I shouldn't have to put a ending tag here, but I'm going to put one anyway just to be consistent and stay used to it. Now, if you've never used these placeholders before, the way we put this in is we say %, and if it was just one item, for example ID, right, we would just say %ID and we're done. But since we have multiple items, we put it in the form of an array. So % open and close square brackets, and we insert these in the order they appear. So first up is my color, then my ID, and then the message. All right, so let's go take a look and see what happens when we try that. We have a host, we have at least one client, and we can come in, we can say, I am the server, send. Well, that's strange, nothing happened. Why? Well, it appears we're not actually calling anything. So let's go ahead and call send message. And we have some arguments we need to put in there. So that's going to be ID, message, and my color. Let's try that again. We have host, we have join, and we can go ahead and we'll say, I am the server, send. And we can see that came through on the server, but nothing came over here on the client. Well, let's try on the client. I am the client, send. Well, that's showing up on the client, but it's not showing up on the server. So how can we acknowledge this? Well, first off, we have another issue. Here is my second message, send, and you can see everything is clumping together, so we don't actually have new lines. So the first thing I want to do is have new lines here. So in our send message function, I can just say chat display dot new line, and now we can actually keep each message on their own line, so they're not cramping together, making it really hard to read. We're going to keep it nice and easy to read, just like you would see on any text or any instant messenger, for example, as well. Now, in order to get this across to all of our clients, we need to use something called RPC. And this is going to be a tag or a keyword here. So in Godot, we use the @ sign. So we say @RPC. And we actually have some arguments we need to pass in with this. So we do this in the form of an array. Sorry, not an array. Open close parentheses. And we can pass in some arguments. Now, one of the ones we're going to do is any peer. Oops, I got rid of the C there. So in the form of a string, you can see we have a bunch of options here. And you can take a look online and see what all of these do. But the main thing we're going to do is we're going to say any peer, because we want anybody to be able to send this message. All right, so that's going to be the first option. And then the second one, we want call local, but I'm going to show you what call remote does. Now, if you're new, you might think, okay, maybe that's all you have to do. You come in and you try it, and still nothing is going to work. And the reason for that is because we actually have to call this as an RPC function. So we're going to say RPC as its own function like that, and that takes some arguments. It's going to take a function name as a string, so send message, and then anything after that is going to be an argument. So we're going to have ID, message, and my color, and I can delete the old way we were calling that function. So now if we were to go ahead and try this, all right, so we have a host, we have a client, and we're saying I am the server, send. Nothing happened. Well, it showed up here on the client. So let's go ahead and try this. I am the client, send. Well, that showed up on the other side. Well, that's strange. What happens if a third person tries this? I am also a client, send. Well, that seems to be going directly to everyone else, but it's not coming to me. That's a little weird and a little strange. Now, there may be situations where you need to or want to call remote with this, but you can see our chat isn't updating locally at all. So if we actually change this from call remote to call local, that should solve all of our issues. I'm say host, join, and say I am the server, send. That showed up on both sides, and I think I'm using black as one of my color options, which is unfortunate. I am a client, send, and we see it shows up on both ends. And if I hit join here with a third option, I am a new client. And we hit send, we can see that appears in our chat, that appears on the server, and that appears on the first client. So we don't have chat history, but this does perfectly show up. So let's see, what if we had a bunch of messages going through? Right. Just get a bunch of these going. Just kind of spam that out. And we can keep going, and our thing is not automatically scrolling. That's a little bit of a problem. How can we fix that? Well, we can solve this easily in the inspector for our chat display, our rich text label. There's a property in the inspector called scroll following. You just go ahead and turn that on. Now everything should be scrolling along with it perfectly fine. Should automatically jump to the bottom. And we're going to start a new session here. So we'll say host, join, and we'll say, we'll come on in. I am server. And we'll just get a bunch of messages in here. We'll get a bunch going here as well for the other clients, right? Boom. And now we can see we are scrolling to the bottom on both our client and our server. Boom, automatically. So for our rich text label, that's all we have to do. We just have to go ahead and tick that one option inside the inspector. But there you go. Now we have users with their own unique color to associate with their ID. We have messages being sent between server and all the clients that we can display on there, and you already know how to synchronize everything up, which everything is still here. There it is with our connection. So our little guys do still exist. We can still move around in this game, and of course move behind the chat, etc. So at this point we have basic networking between two peers, right? We're going peer to peer, two people connecting directly. And we have a functioning online chat. So if you want to create a chat system or a chat application, this is how you would go about it. It's as simple as that for the most part. Obviously, there's some back-end things that you might want to take a look at, such as additional things like sending images, keeping track of chat logs, having people set up accounts, usernames, and all that stuff when it comes to an actual chat app. But that's besides that. Again, that's more advanced than this. And with that, if you wanted to create yourself or add multiplayer into your RTS, I think you have all the basics here for people to be running around. And if you want to sync up actions between people, and if you want to have a chat for people to be able to communicate together. Alright, so that'll do it for this. Take care, have yourselves a good one. Hopefully you guys learned a lot with this, with RPCs, and I guess creating a chat in general, if you guys didn't know how to do that. I know there's not a whole lot of people on YouTube that are doing non-game related stuff, and chat's kind of on that edge between software and gaming. And I know a lot of people, when it comes to chats, usually prefer voice chat, and they prefer their own system and not something in-game like Discord. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble on, I know that. So take care, have yourselves a good one, and hopefully we'll be starting the RTS stuff next week. At least that's a plan, unless something comes up.